Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and this past weekend we had our first Set 1 legal event for the Gundam card game. We had 64 players, 6 rounds of Swiss, and I'm really excited to go over the results with you guys. So real quick before we get started, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of Gundam content and I don't want you guys to miss it. Also, a couple of things in the description. One, we have a link to Eggman events, which has all the deck lists we're going over today and many others. We also have a link to the live stream that I did with Risu. It was a lot of fun. I'm really happy that we were able to do it, and make sure to follow Risu on YouTube as well. Makes a lot of Gundam content. And then also I want to say a big shout out to EXP Share Collectibles. They were able to help us get prizing for this event. We would not be able to prize it out as easily without their help, and I really do appreciate it. They're also the people who make the One Piece tokens that I do. They have some stuff that on my store that I merch out through them, and I really do appreciate all their support. So make sure to check them out if you haven't already. There's an affiliate link in the description too, and let's just jump on into it. So starting off, we did have again 64 players, 6 rounds of Swiss, and one little asterisk here. We do have a top 9, and the reason being is that our 8th place players tied. So both Fernando and Steffon both had the exact same record and exact same tiebreakers. So they both got 8th place, which is a bit of an anomaly. We're prizing out both of them as well, so they're in a good spot. But this is kind of why it's like a top 9, since we did have just Swiss standings, and technically both of them got 8th place. So of that though, we did have 3 copies with green, white, wing 0, with one of them winning the event, 3 copies of the blue and white unicorn blockers, 2 copies of blue and white freedom blockers, and a red blue Cyber-Newtype as well. So something to kind of mention too is that, you know, all these kind of archetype names are based on my own naming convention too, so there is like some variations between people. There's not like One Piece or Fusion World where there's kind of like a leader to represent a deck in its entirety. We do have like the color breakdown too, and I also will say that, and we'll mention it later too, blue, white, unicorn, and freedom are both pretty similar. They have a lot of the same card engine. It's just kind of a bit of the top end, and even so, like both these decks can really be lumped together in some people's minds, which I totally think is fine. But we also do have the color breakdown for people who are able to enter the event. These are the colors they use. So 34 copies of blue white, 17 copies of green white, 4 copies of blue red, 3 copies of red white, 2 copies of blue green, 2 copies of green red, and a mono green and a mono white. So it's pretty clear that I've been saying that blue white and a lot of other people has been one of the strongest decks in the format, and if it's not the strongest, it's definitely the most popular. Taking over 50% of this format is not too surprising. I know a lot of people have seen the power of this deck, and once it goes off, like there's a lot of decks that just really can interact with it really nicely. You get so much value not only from your card draw, but also being able to like trade favorably for things, and it's pretty clear why this deck is really popular as well. But we are going to go over all of the top 9 decks for this. Also, we do have a bonus couple kind of unique decks that had an X2 finish, which means they could have gotten into this top 8. So we're going to start off though with our first place list, which is Caleb's version of the Wing 0. We also do have Zuhair and Steffon, who are able to again get top 8 with their builds of the Wing 0. But this is probably like the highest to the sky version of this deck I've seen. We've seen that green white's been doing well for the last couple weeks for some of the Eagle Nest events. We had Garrett be able to win one of them as well with green white, and kind of the difference between that build and this one is that this is just almost purely Operation Meteor, right? We do play like our blockers of Zawar and Gundam Ilfrit. We do also have 2 copies of the Ailstrike Gundam and like 2 Kira pilots, but generically this is just the boys, right? It's duo, it's hero. We've got this really tall end of 4 of each of the Death Scythe, Wing Gundam, and Wing Gundam 0, and we just try to get there. And if we do get there, we get a lot of pressure from this one. So it's definitely a deck where I feel like you can get punished by some early aggressive decks. I don't think those are as prevalent right now. I know a lot of people tried Zeon and with blue and white blockers kind of keeping those decks at bay. It really means that green white can kind of survive in the fact that most of the decks can't really get as much value as it can late game. It gets so much pressure, and it's been very, very strong for it. So we also just have like our card draw, right? We have Overflowing Affection at 4 copies. We also have One Path to Victory or Defeat, the Path to Victory or Defeat at 4 copies. So we're definitely finding our pieces pretty consistently. And then we do have 6 cards of ramp with the Wing Gundam Bird mode as well as the First Contact. So with how the mulligan system works, you technically look top 10 cards of your deck, you have a really strong chance of being able to find one piece of ramp, and then if you're able to play it and use it and get to your higher levels earlier, you can just get a lot of value. And then again, like Wing Gundam 0 really is just like the equalizer for this, right? You get to this card, it really kind of resets the board in a lot of ways, and you have like your boss monster that this can be the largest unit in the game with the Hero Yui, making it an 8/9, which is just insane for how the stats work for this game. But being able to also also just do 3 damage. And sometimes, like, most decks don't play anything above a level 5, meaning that you can play 2 of these back to back, turn after turn. And 6 damage across the board means that most decks are just can't, even if they have like a 4 or 5 health unit, being able to get rid of both, all those cards over 2 turns is just really, really strong for it. So I think this deck is really good. And so this is kind of like the tall end version of it, and maybe the expensive version, because we do have to play the Death Scythe and the Gundam Zero. But we also do have like the builds that are more reminiscent of what like Garrett played a couple weeks ago, where we are playing like the Freedom Gundam, right? This also is just like a really good level 7 that, we can ramp to this and, stabilize a little bit better. The fact that Kira also links with it is good. The fact that it also is level 7, so you don't get hit by your Wing Gundam Zero, is pretty nice. So I think that's something that, a lot of people have been trying out. And when you're already playing like Kira, it's a nice little add for the deck too. And we also have Steffon's build, where it's not as, there isn't any additional like freedom. We have like a little bit of like variance for like some tech cards, right? We've got like Duos Leo, being able to like get some good trades, especially like, into like some rewards early, is really nice. We also do have like the Gundam Death Scythe, the level 4. This can be like, I know a lot of people are like, man, if this was a 3/4, this card would be a lot better. The fact that, Duo makes this a 5/5 is kind of stinky. Even with Repair 1, right, it's just difficult for you to be able to get this effect. And then also the fact that like the Wing Gundam Zero can pop it, because it again is a 4/3, is tough, but it can be a good link with Duo if you need to get some attacks going in. We also do have like the Overflowing Affection. We've got the Unforeseen Incidents. We've got a single striker pack, is probably like a 5th copy of our Gundam Ilfrit, and just kind of some additional cards from there. But yeah, generally speaking, I think that this deck has been proven to be very good right now. I think a lot of people are going to be on green white as the premier way to play Wing Gundam Zero, and congratulations to all of our Wing Gundam Zero players. Next up, we've got blue white. So we're going to start off with the Unicorn blockers, and we have 3 players. John and Daniel are playing the exact same build, and we also have Fernando with a slight variation for it. I also want to say that, like, again, blue white is really just a pile of good cards. I think right now you can we distinguish it a little bit of how much destroy mode they use, right? I would say if they play 3 to 2 copies of it, it's more of like a Unicorn top end. But again, a lot of it is just kind of spice to be able to get you like late game value for this deck, right? A lot of it is just the fact that, again, we're playing all these good blockers, the fact that we're also getting the value engine, right? We can't really have a bad deck if we have Overflowing Affection and Show Resolve in the same one, right? The amount of consistency you get is really high. The amount of like just card draw, this deck also is just really good for like 2 for 1ing, or like 2 for 3 kind of effects, where you're able to use your cards, make it very difficult for your opponent to interact or get rid of them, especially with like Freedom Gundam having a lot of stats, but also removing stats from your opponent's AP to get some really favorable trades has been really strong. Amro, just to be like a great way to get some removal that gets to pair with anything, is really strong. And then the Boninger links, even without like the link effect, the +2/+2 is a really good stat boost and lets you hit up into some certain things, or also just lets you survive some things you wouldn't likely get otherwise. So like making like a Perfect Strike Gundam like a 6/6 means that most players are looking at hitting in a 5 AP curve. So this being able to block, protect, and then block, or attack into something else and trade is really, really nice for it. So in general, I think this is kind of like a really standard version of Unicorn from both John and Daniel. And then we also have Fernando with a little bit extra spice. One big thing too is, I guess I should have mentioned, is that the inclusion of the level 5 Unicorn mode. This card can attack a 6/5 and like get a card draw with Boninger. I usually like playing like 2 copies of it. The kind of combo effect to play it with the 7-drop doesn't happen very often, I find. It's generally you just play this for 7 and you link it with Boninger and you're in a really good spot. So generally, I don't think this card is really needed, but it is like a little, you get some value from playing it too. So this one's playing, I think, a little bit more defensively, and this is in the middle of, I think, a Freedom Gundam and Unicorn side, but I'm saying it's leaning on the Unicorn side just because we got 2 of this bad boy on the top end. But yeah, this deck can be, again, very obnoxious, very difficult for your opponent to get through blockers. We've got draws. We have like Archangel, which I think this is kind of like the mirror match breaker. If you're able to get your Archangel out and then defend it with having your blockers, your opponent really can't interact very nicely. We've seen that a couple times throughout the games. We also have like tech cards like Sword Strike Gundam, being able to, during a link, get I choose an enemy with an HP of 2 or less and return to the owner's hand, which is good. Gun Cannon to some interaction, just some like additional cards that you can also link with your Amuro Ray and your Akira as well. So generally speaking, I think, again, blue-white cards are going to be really, really good together. You're going to see a lot of kind of piles like this one. So these are like the Unicorn ones, and then we're going to slip into kind of more of what I've been calling the Freedom blockers again. blue white good stuff blockers, whatever you want to say it. But this one's only playing the one spice copy of it. This is Henry's version of the deck, and Henry's been playing a lot and doing really well for the last couple weeks. He ended up getting into the finals, and so this was the second place in the six round 6 finals. But this has been a really strong deck still. Nothing really changing, right? Like you can see, like the big thing that I think that is actually really impactful is the Anksha. This is just kind of like a big gun tank, being able to say deploy, choose one rested unit, and then deal 1 damage to it. There are a lot of trade situations where I'm finding, like, man, my opponent's at 1 HP. I really can't interact with it cleanly, and this Anksha can really, really help you out in those situations. So specifically, like the cases are like we make some really we make some 6 AP units pretty easily with our +2, but if we go against something that has like Wing Gundam, they make themselves a 7/7. They get to attack into one of our blockers, remove it, and then they still just exist as like a really obnoxious 7/1. So I think Anksha is really good for helping us get some interaction and some removal in those situations, and it's definitely been a tech ad, especially since I've been playing a lot of blue-red Cyber-Newtype. I'm like, what if we put Anksha in these other decks? And I think it can work out. So we've got the build here, and then we also have a build here from Vince, and Vince has a really, I think, solid build for anyone just trying to get into this game. Specifically, this is a build where you take 2 copies of Starter Deck 4, you take 2 copies of Starter Deck 1 as well, since you are playing the Gundam Aerial. But if you don't have that, you can probably put 2 of those and like 2 Amuros, and then like this is generally Starter Deck cards, a couple commons and rares, and then the Freedom Gundam from LRs. So I do know this is a pretty expensive LR though right now. I think that if you have two or more copies of this card, I think you can play a very solid version of this deck too. Generally when I play it, I play 2 to 3 copies. I think four is obviously the maximum, and I don't see many people play 4 copies of the Freedom Gundam. But in a build like this one where we don't have like any other top end, I can definitely see it be really strong in those situations. So I do like the addition though of also this Letta Mercury, kind of like the Academy package. That extra resource does kind of come up every once in a while, especially when we have a lot of draw cards with Overflowing Affection and so Show of Resolve. And then obviously like the Gundam Aerial, being able to get this paired effect to give something -3 AP. That's something that's level 5 or lower against the -3 AP is really nice. It's a little bit more situational, right? But being able to use like Ail Strike and Aerial, both being able to get kind of the same effects at just different timing, I think can be really, really helpful. So I don't have much more to say about this. I think this deck is in a really good spot though too. And again, blue white is in a great spot. There's not really a way to make the deck bad by playing a lot of these cards. So here's a build from Vince, and congratulations to pretty much all of our blue white players. So these are the last of the blue white decks. So next up, we've got our additional copies of some red and blue. So this is the last deck to sneak into the top 8 here. This is Jonathan's version of the red blue Cyber-Newtype. We also did Apia's version of the red blue low. This one is he was able to get a X2 finish, so making it a wasn't in the top 8 for it, but could have gone there with tiebreakers. But this is definitely a build that I'm more used to seeing. This is one that I'm a little bit more standard with having like the Ankshas and stuff, and so seeing the build from Jonathan has some really unique adds and some differences for it. So the big one is the addition of like Thoroughly Damaged. This being an Earth Federation pilot and also a command is really good, so it does link with the Gundam here. It pairs with this, so you can get the card draw or the Earth Federation trait with the Delta Plus, which this does have the Earth Federation trait. I know some people have been playing like copies of like Gun Cannon as well, so being able to get that link with the Thoroughly Damaged is good there too. There's also like the Unicorn Gundam, which lets you get the link with Merida Cruise. Like this deck is really strong if you are able to see your Merida Cruises, just because this does let you do some really good trades in those situations. So we're known for just having like a really low to the ground start, being able to really punish our opponent's decks if they don't, if they have a slow start, like we can win really on like turn 4 or 5 a lot of the time. I've been really, I've gone to the other side where I'm like, this card's actually pretty good. It's the 12 cards in Trash is still, I think, a little hefty of a cost for it. You do have to really like trade your units or really get cards into there, but once you do, you can get some really good removal, which is really, really nice. So or you just go for game. The fact that this card can attack twice as a pilot, link pair with Merida is really good too. And then there's that, and then this Gundam, I think this card's just been fine. I don't know how I feel about this card at the end of the day. I don't know if this is better than the Star Deck Gundam. If you don't have this card and you want to play this deck, you can just definitely play the Star Deck Gundam too. This one, getting a card draw is cool, but most of your units that would be getting Repair 1 are units that just won't really take damage anyways, right? The only white base stuff we have is literally gun tank, right? So and other than that, there's nothing. So specifically, like being able to say, oh well, this has repair 1 and I can draw a card if I have 2 or more other units in play is a little bit hefty. So I don't know how I feel about either. Like sometimes the card draw, like using thoroughly damage on this could get like some benefits for it, but it's just tough. It's just tough to get this card draw and feel good about it. So in general, I think this deck is really fun, and this is, I think, again, a little bit more of the standard build that I'm more used to, and this is the build again that Apia was using for this event too. So it's good. There's just good stuff. I don't know what to say. There's just so many good ways for this deck to be viable in its own way, to get a lot of pressure on board, be really aggressive, and then your opponent just has to be like, man, if I don't have blockers or if I don't have a base, I just lose on board next turn. I just literally can't do anything about it. So very, very strong. And be careful about this. You can definitely be surprised by how fast this deck can go. So lastly, we've got Daniel's version of blue and green Zeon aggro. So able to get an 11th place finish with an X2 place or finishing with their record. So Zeon is definitely a deck archetype that I have not had a lot of success for. I made a tier list video a couple days ago where I put this Zeon kind of towards the bottom, and I didn't even put it like a color combination. I'm like, I haven't had like a lot of success with red and green, and a lot of like blocker based decks, which we're looking at wing and any of the like white decks in general, like they get so many blockers they get to stabilize, and then you just can't finish the game anymore. So something with this one though, I think there are some really cool like pairings you get to do and like combos you get to do with this deck. I know a lot of people were telling me that the blue-green version of Zeon aggro is the best version of it, and seemingly that might be the case for it. So for Daniel's build though, we are playing like a good amount of Zeon cards. We are just playing the Char Zaku 2 from the Star deck, and then the Wing Gundam from Star deck 2. So generally speaking, this deck is super budget friendly, right? There's no LRs from the first set. You have to take just 2 copies of Star deck 2, 2 copies of Star deck 3, which generally are not the star decks that people are buying right now either, so probably a little bit easier to get to, but being able to use this to just be really aggressive. I know a lot of people have been saying, Rick Dom's Breach 2, it can't get rid of an EX base by itself, but Breach 2 still gets the job done. We also, it's a Zeon card. We have these Zaku cards too, and then our top end with the Wing Gundam. So something that I've also noticed, and I think this deck can kind of answer, is that the kind of end game scenario for a lot of defensive decks is that they get to 1 base at the end and then 1 like a blocker or 2, right? So you'd have to get rid of the base and then attack 1 more time. So something that you can do with that specifically is like the link pairs that we get for this one can answer those situations, right? So we can play like Wing Gundam. We attack if they block, it's Breach 5, so it gets rid of most bases. Otherwise, you just get rid of it, and then you can like Char Zaku 2 into the Char and be able to get high maneuver, and just they could have 6 blockers and you can still attack for game, which I think is really, really strong, and something that when you're a meta where there's so many blocker decks, being able to have high maneuver so easily is really nice. So the only thing I would say is that Show Resolve is like a hard card to not play in the deck, but you do need to be more consistent. So I can see that be something that we don't have room for. I also think that the Gelgoog, I think Char's Gelgoog, you still want to play a couple copies of it. Like definitely like this one being able to play for 2 is nice and it links with any Zeon thing, but I think like having like 2 copies of the Char's Gelgoog just lets you turn any unit in your hand that's Zeon type into being able to just a 1 card kind of combo situation, which I think is just a little bit too good to pass up. But other than that, I think this deck is in a really interesting spot. It's definitely one that I'm going to be testing a little bit more recently, and just the fact that it's had some success, and I want to see if I can make it a little bit better. And I think again, Zaku aggressive decks are really interesting in this game. If your opponent has like a mid start, you can just take off with it and they really can't do anything about it. So this is the build from Daniel. Congratulations for their top 16, and that's going to be it for this video. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for supporting these events. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to check out the descriptions for links for the things that we talked about, and be on the lookout for some future events in the future too. So again, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you all next time.